The Godfather.
This that. This that. This that jumpin', yeah. This that jumpin', start like 23. This that jumpin', 2-4 like Kobe. This that jumpin', shoot my shot, then beat. This that jumpin', right around song my trees. This that jumpin', start like 23. This that jumpin', 2-4 like Kobe. This that jumpin', shoot my shot, then beat. This that jumpin', right around smoking my dreams. I be ballin' in music like Kobe. I'm the greatest to ever do it, they don't know it. Straight from the streets where the shots came blowin'. I came from the bottom where they hate to see you blow. Mama always told me I'm a shine, so I glow. I came from the block where I stood 10 toes. Came a long way, now I'm on the top floor.
Welcome, everybody, to the premiere edition of Turtles Take. Thanks for joining us. Me, Vince Mucci, Andrew Tarbill here with us. What's up?
What's up, bro? How's it going?
Another day, man. Another day. It's finally Friday. It's finally time to be on the show.
Absolutely. We got a good episode lined up here for our debut.
It's going to be good. For those out there, you guys are going to get a hold of Derrick Ross, College Football Hall of Famer, AFL legend, all-time leading rusher, former Kansas City Chief. He'll be on with us, and then we're going to get some MMA action with Lorenzo Hood, the Dream Killer, on with us talking about his next upcoming fight. So what's up, man? You ready to go over all this stuff?
Absolutely. Been looking forward to this all week.
I know. It felt like we'd never get here.
I hear you. Today was just dragging, man. I'm glad time's
It was all day. It's all I could think about was, man, 7 o'clock.
Right.
And we had our pre-show little meeting and everything. I was like, man, it's ready to go.
Absolutely.
So, man, you want to start with some of these topics that some of the people gave us on Facebook?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
My boy Sonny came out to check it out. What's up, man? So we had some people talking about the Blackhawks. First off, we saw Brent Seabrook calling it quits today. Body can't take no more. What do you think about that?
Honestly, it wasn't really a surprise to me. I think it was time. Just the injuries became too much for him, and it's actually a good time for him to hang it up, give these young players a little bit of time to grow defensively.
Yeah, definitely.
With that, we did see that they're debating retiring his number. What's your thoughts on that, Vince?
Well, so here's the thing. I heard some people talking about this. Said, well, Chelios is number 7, Seabrook's number 7. Who had the better career? Should they retire it for both? You know, there's a lot of Hawks out there that haven't been retired. You got guys like Eddie Belfour. Eddie Belfour's never been retired. I felt like he's one of the greatest Blackhawks of all time. Jeremy Roenick, Steve Larmer. Steve Larmer has great numbers, and he hasn't been retired yet. I just think people are too caught up in what we just saw. You know, Brent Seabrook is fresh for everybody. It's the hot thing. He just retired. Everyone's, oh, he's got to be retired. What about other guys before him that haven't been retired?
Right. And with that, I feel like if you retire him, it comes to the point where, are you going to retire Taves when he's done? Are you going to retire Kaner when he's done? You know, where does it stop? Are you going to retire every guy from that 3-cup run?
I feel like if you retire Kane and Taves, you could do that and not retire anybody else. But if you retire guys like Seabrook or Keith, as great as they were, don't get me wrong, as great as they were, you retire guys like that, you have to retire everybody. Crawford,
right.
Kane, Taves, you got to do them all. Sharp, you got to retire everybody because, I mean, they're just as important as Seabrook was. But you got guys like I said, like Belfour and Larmer and Roenick, Chelios, guys like that who may not have had the team success that this team had, but they were the single success. And you really don't retire numbers based off team success.
Right. And that's the thing. It comes down to individual accolades versus team success when you get in the discussion of retiring numbers. And with Seabrook, man, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I wouldn't rush to do it. Maybe down the line somewhere, but definitely not now. Not I wouldn't rush to make a big move on that or say, oh, we have to retire him now. This, that, and all the other things. Angela, that's a great point out. If they had a Ring of Honor, you could put him there without retiring the number. Sometimes they go hand in hand. I just think he's a great player. I do like that he's doing one last for the team, and he's going to go ahead and technically not retire. He's retiring, but every year for the rest of his contract, they're going to put him on long-term IR, and that's going to let them. He'll still get paid, but it won't hurt their cap, so give him a little more room. Today they put him, Andrew Shaw, and I believe Zach Smith on long-term IR. That's going to free up like $26 million. Somebody had asked about what we thought they should do for a long playoff run. Well, they got $26 million in cap. They just freed up. That whatever the plan was, it just changed.
Definitely, that freeing up that money is going to be significant to making some moves here in the future with this young team.
Yeah, especially obviously they're not to the point like that Cubs team was, but I compare them. They're like a year ahead. They weren't supposed to be as good as they are this year. So when you're already better than they're supposed to be, and now you free up $26 million in cap, Stan Bowman and everybody don't have the excuse of, oh, we don't have money, or, oh, we got to pay this guy. Now you just free up $26 million. You better go get what you need to compete on the ice.
Oh, absolutely. I think we've definitely seen some good play out of this young group that was definitely not expected moving into this season, and it's really only up from here for that Hawks group. So,
well, yeah, especially you see the it seems all the time they get to the playoffs and they're just okay, nobody's in, and all of a sudden a goalie gets hot or a defense gets hot, and now they're winning games 1-0, 2-1. It's not like basketball or some of these sports where you got to outscore everybody. Obviously, you have to outscore them, but when you're talking about a 1-0 game or a 2-1 game, you get a hot goalie, it could be all the difference in first round exit and Stanley Cup win.
Oh, absolutely agree. We've gotten some good play out of our goalies this year as well. Last night's game, that was a heartbreaker. I mean, totally fell apart in the third period, in my opinion. But
yeah, I feel like they're still just missing a few pieces where they can lean on down the stretch. When everything's hot, you got a lot of guys that are able to play, but when it really gets down to the end of the game, like you said, the third period, and it's a close game, they need those guys that they can rely on for a lot of ice time. When they were winning cups, you had 3-4 guys were leading the league in ice time and minutes every game.
Right. And they'll get the pieces as they move forward for sure. I'm excited to see where this Hawks team goes in the future. You're playing a very good team yesterday, and the next 2 games in Tampa Bay, you're playing a very good team. And to keep it tied at 2-2 until the very end of the third period, that's significant and shows growth even in a loss like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It should definitely be fun and exciting. It's much better to be in that position than what everybody thought we were going to be in right now, where we thought the Hawks were going to be in the second or third worst team in hockey.
Absolutely agree.
So one of the other topics, switching directions, somebody asked, what if Mike Trout was to get traded? Say the Angels have miss the playoffs again this year, and he finally says, you know what? I've had enough. I'm ready to go play somewhere else. Who would be involved in looking for a trade for him, and what do we think they could get in return for him? You want to start that off?
For me, that's a tough question, just because as a player, he is extremely gifted, top tier, and
absolutely,
it would be difficult for any team to really put a viable offer on the table. It would be a challenge for them to even entertain an offer for him, in my opinion.
So when I first started thinking about this, I was like, man, they're going to get the world. Is Mike Trout. Mike Trout is the best baseball player in the world. They're going to get it whatever they want for him. So I started doing some research, and I started thinking back, Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts got traded to the Dodgers. Obviously, it was a great move. They won the World Series. Mookie Betts got traded to the Dodgers with David Price and a few other pieces, and all they got in return was Alex Vertigo and a few other prospects. So then I started thinking, there might not be an offer you can make that's worth Mike Trout. Because if Mookie Betts only got that, what are you going to get? 2 versions of Alex Vertigo?
Right.
And even if you get that, is it really worth giving up Mike Trout?
I would personally say no.
You know, I mean,
He's
Mike,
the
you
type
saw
of guy you
Patrick.
build around.
Absolutely, you saw Patrick Mahomes get the 500 million in, from the Chiefs. Mike Trout would be that guy in baseball. You pay him whatever it takes,
Right.
and especially baseball, there's no salary cap. So then you go and you start building around him, and you do whatever you do. I mean, they got Anthony Rendon, and they got some other pieces. Otani's been hurt, so that's been a big problem for them. But they got Joe Madden out there now. Everybody likes to play for Joe Madden.
Absolutely.
So I just don't think you could trade him. I think there's not a good enough offer that you're going to get from somebody that would be worth trading them, especially in it's a sport like baseball. You look at basketball, one guy's the difference. You got
Right.
one really good player, he's going to carry your team. You're a really bad baseball team with Mike Trout on it, you're still going to be a bad baseball team. So if you're not going to get enough in return for him, you might as well keep running him out there. Absolutely, the Yankees. I said the Yankees or the Dodgers are the only two teams I could see coming for him, because both those teams I could see going all in. You want our top 5
Yeah.
prospects, top 6 prospects, whatever it takes, I'm trading for Mike Trout.
And not only prospects, they have the money to get a deal done to pay him as well.
And the established players. They could give up,
Right.
your top 3 prospects, 2 established players, and part of his contract or something,
Right.
whatever it would take. Those would be the teams that jump out to me as teams that could go get him, because both those teams are never afraid to spend. They're never afraid to do something that nobody else would do and make it work. You've seen the Dodgers over the years make a lot of different trades. Back a few years ago when they made that 10-player trade for Adrian Gonzalez and all them guys from Boston, and they seem to trade really good with Boston.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you see somebody sent in, guys like Judge, Harper, Bellinger. When you start naming guys like that, why would you give up that? So if I'm trading Mike Trout, that's what I'm going to ask for, because it's Mike Trout. But if I'm
Right.
the team trading for him, I don't want to give away my whole team, because then you're left with just prospects, and you're going to be the Angels.
Exactly. That's their biggest issue right now is around him. It's nothing but prospects. So
Right. So then switching gears again, so we had the popular question in Chicago right now, Zach LaVine. What do the Bulls do? Do they hold on to Zach? Do they trade Zach? I personally, I'm now going to say it. Our guy over here, Alan's going to be happy. I'm keeping Zach LaVine. I'll say it again. I'm keeping Zach LaVine. I said you gotta listen to trades. I guess you could still listen, but at the end of the day, I'm keeping Zach LaVine. However, I'm building around him. They got to get a big man to play some defense. You see them struggle the most against these teams that got these physical big men that just tear them apart down low. They don't have
Right.
anybody to deal with that. Wendell Carter was supposed to be this stretch big that could play in the paint and play out and shoot at the 3-point line at Duke. He doesn't do that in the NBA.
no.
Lowry can't stay on the floor. And when he does, he's a 3-point shooter. Everybody's a 3-point shooter now. These guys, they
Right.
just don't play enough defense. They don't have a ball handler to control the ball. There's our guy Allen, all about him. Allen wants us to go get Bradley Beal and pair him up with him. I'm watching these bets. I see him every night. Bradley Beal, 5 turnovers. Zach LaVine, 7 turnovers. But I will come to this side. I'll say I keep Zach LaVine.
I have to completely agree with you on that one. I wouldn't say Zach is at that superstar level, but he's been playing consistently well over this last stretch of games. And if you get a true point guard around him to complement his play style, offensively, that would open so many doors. Our guy Allen does like Brad Beal as a prospect to bring around him. I'm not necessarily sold on trying to make a deal to bring Brad Beal to Chicago, but you got to get you have to get a true point guard around him. And as far as the center position goes, that's Wendell Carter was supposed to be that guy that could kind of do it all, be versatile in the middle, and I see him more of a traditional power forward role than in the center role. I think you could keep him and move him to a forward role and use him. He could be somewhat versatile in that role, but we do need a true big man in the center. I mean, you saw the last game we played the 76ers, Joel Embiid put 50 points up.
Right.
And he's an extraordinary player. Don't get me wrong. One of the best centers in the league, in my opinion. But you've got to be able to slow a guy like that down a little bit if you want to be competitive, especially down the stretch. If you talk about this team possibly getting into the playoffs, it's going to be tough in the playoffs without a big man in the center that can slow some of these top 5 centers in the league down.
Yeah, I think so too. You see the regular season, a lot of run and gun basketball, but you get to the playoffs, it's a lot more defense, a lot slower pace. You don't see the running up and down the court in transition as much as you do in a regular season. I just feel like they make too many turnovers. You see, the other night, even some of the games they win, their games should be put away. And next thing you know, their teams
Right.
are back in it. Like I believe it was the Phoenix game. Chris
Yeah.
Paul took over. He started making Kobe turns the ball over a couple times down the court, and Zach turns it over. They just don't have that guy to control the ball. And it's not
Right.
just the Bulls. You look at a team like Milwaukee, who every year is supposed to be a champion, and every year Giannis is the guy. Giannis can't bring the ball up the court either. It's not what he does.
Right.
He's not. He doesn't have that ability. So that's when they get in trouble in the playoffs. So that's why they went out and they got Drew Holiday to take on that role for when they get to the playoffs. I just think there's too many guys available that the Bulls could bring in cheap. A guy like Lonzo Ball. I'm big on Lonzo Ball. He's an elite passer. Is he a guy that's going to go
Yeah.
out and he's going to be a superstar on your team? No, he's not. But when this Bulls team starts getting going, you really have two major building blocks. I'll even call it three because I'll throw Kobe White in there. You have Zach LaVine, who's your starting shooting guard. He could even slide down and play small forward if you did get another guard. Or you got Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams is small forward, power forward. He plays great defense. He's another building block. If you got Kobe White
Yes.
at the 6-man role, now you've got some versatility. What you do, he can come in, he can play the 2 off the ball, he can play on the ball a little bit. If you use it in spurts, it's not as bad as if you're trying to do it as his major role. And then you go get guys. There's a lot of guys available. Kawhi Leonard will be up. DeMar DeRozan, Bradley Beal. Guys that if you put Lonzo Ball, you could get him cheap. He'll be a free agent too. If you trade for him now, you get the Bulls' biggest pitch to everybody is this new culture. AK
Right.
came in. He brought in Billy Donovan. All the way down, they've got this great culture that everybody around the league loves. Well, if that's your selling point, bring in guys like Lonzo Ball. DeMarcus Cousins is a free agent. Go trade for Andre Drummond. Cleveland's not playing him anymore. Go get these guys who can come into this culture and they can speak on it. You get more guys than who say, hey, this really is a different Bulls team. This team is going to go places.
Right.
And now you add, with Alonzo Ball and a Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, you add a DeMar DeRozan or a Kawhi Leonard, somebody that's going to get you a max contract where you're paying them. You don't have to pay Lonzo a max contract, but he can still come in and control the ball for you. If he's averaging 12 points, but he's getting 12 assists a game, I'm okay with that. I don't need him to score 20 points a game as long as he's getting me them double-digit assists and limiting it to, 3 turnovers a game.
Agreed. And real quick, you mentioned Cousins there at Cleveland. They haven't been playing him as much recently. I think he'd be somebody that for a decent dollar amount we could pick up and he could make an immediate impact on that team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. DeMarcus said he was down in Houston for whatever reason. It didn't work out there. They let him go. He's sitting there. He's just nobody's even playing. Nobody's going after him. So just go throw him, like you said, moderate amount of money, nothing crazy. Let him come in. Let him play. He's trying to show the rest of the league he could still play and be a dominant center. Let him come in and be that guy. Even if he just takes up space down there, at least it's something.
Right.
And you don't have to give up anybody for him. You're just giving up money, which they have plenty of. So you give up some money, you go get them, bring them in now, let it show the culture, show you're going after those big name guys.
Yeah, and that's something that would help build some strength and unity in the locker room. A lot of people are down on Cousins and say that he's kind of difficult in the locker room, difficult to work with, but I think if you have a guy like that available, sometimes you just need a change of scenery. So you change the scenery, bring him into a good culture. Billy Donovan's an excellent coach. He's been rebuilding the culture there since day one. And I think you get a guy like Cousins in there under Coach Donovan, it could be a totally different story.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a Facebook user. He just messaged us saying or commented saying about Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin got bought out of his contract by the Detroit Pistons. I heard that I read on ESPN a lot of contenders have been interested in him. If we had to pick, I'd say 2 teams that you think he might go to. Where do you think he winds up?
That's a tough one. I mean, I've always been a fan of his, and over there in Detroit, I mean, Detroit's known historically for playing some good defensive basketball. He's a very versatile player. Uh, I could see a team like maybe Houston going after him in the future just because they've freed up some money when Harden I'd say walked out of his contract would be the easiest way to put it.
Forced his way up.
Forced his way out. I
So
don't
think,
see him.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Vince. Go ahead, you're good.
I was gonna say I think he goes to the Knicks. I think the Knicks they're better than they were supposed to be this year. Oh, me and Angelo, we right on the same page. The Knicks are better than they're supposed to be, and that always happens. You get you get Tibbs in there, he's gonna get the most out of everybody he's got. And you're gonna be better than you're supposed to be. I think they'd be as good as they are? No. But if you look at it, you've got guys who are 4th place and 10th place, and they're only a game and a half out of each other, or 3 games out of each other. So if the Knicks go get a few pieces, we had somebody else ask, what do we see as the 4 conference finals teams? I could very well see the Knicks going and adding some pieces here at the deadline and making a run at the Eastern Conference Finals. After the Nets, it's wide open. I think everybody could say the Nets are going to be there. I know they don't play any defense, but when you're scoring 130 points a game, it doesn't matter if you score defense or if you play defense.
Right.
Then after them, you got Philadelphia, you got Boston, you got Milwaukee, everybody that's very flawed already in the regular season. But now you take a team like the Knicks, who are currently the 4th seed, and they add a Blake Griffin or they go add a DeMarcus Cousins. Mitchell Robinson's out for a while with an injury, so that's hurt him a little bit. But Julius Randle is having a career year. He's a guy who's shown it in the past flashes. He's just never been in a role where he could be the guy. Well, New York doesn't have anybody. They went on, they got Derrick Rose. He paired him back up with Tibbs. I'm a little jealous of him. Makes me think back to those Bulls teams with Tibbs and Derrick Rose. But I digress. I go back to, the Knicks are who they are. They're going to play good defense. They had a couple scorers. They could easily wind up against the Nets.
That would be an interesting matchup to see. I agree. I like that take. I think that if they go out and put a couple pieces in there, they could definitely be a contender come playoff time. Like you said, really, there's one team that is going to be there, and beyond that, it's wide open. So,
yeah, and then you look at the other side. Obviously, it all depends on Anthony Davis, but from all accounts, it does sound like Anthony Davis will be back, and it doesn't really matter what seed they are. If they get Anthony Davis back, the Lakers are going to be there. So you get the Lakers in there, and then it's who plays the Lakers. I like the Nuggets a lot. The Nuggets have had some injuries. Millsap's missed a bunch, so maybe that's a team that goes and gets a Blake Griffin or somebody to play power forward for them while Millsap's out. Otherwise, I really like Phoenix. I love what Chris Paul's doing there. The ageless wonder. Everywhere he goes, they just win. That's all they do. You can get a guy like Devin Booker that can score against anybody, and now a DeAndre Ayton, who's finally being the guy that we all thought he was going to be when they took him 1st overall.
Yeah, he has really stepped into his role in a big way this year. But Denver, yes, they've definitely started to come together. Like you said, Phoenix, that Phoenix game against the Bulls was a tough one to watch, but I digress.
It really was. We were watching it, and it was 18 points and cool, game's over. And then Kobe throws a few away. Zach forces up a few. And that's the one thing I'll say about Zach. As great as he's played, I'd love to see him work on shot selection. He just, we're all human. You start scoring and everything else, and all of a sudden you think, well, I can make any shot. And now you start to force them. You drive, and all of a sudden somebody's there, and you just throw it up. He needs to get better kicking that out or reset, but that's because he's not a point guard. That's what I keep telling everybody. Right. He's not a point guard. He's a shooting guard. He scores. That's what he does. So, but we'll see. There's a lot of basketball left. Hopefully it's a good All-Star game this weekend, and we can watch Zach in the All-Star game. Hopefully he wins a 3-point contest, be the first player to ever win the 3-point contest and the slam dunk contest, and we'll just see where the second half goes.
Yeah, I'm excited for the second half. We'll see how it goes after the break. I think it'll be interesting to see where this Bulls team ends up. Definitely have a little bit tougher schedule the second half than the first half. So,
yep, they're going to get tested.
absolutely.
The thing this year, especially with 10 teams, they're going to have to play in for the 10th seed and all that. You get a little bit, the margin for error is a little bit bigger than it usually is, but we'll just kind of see what happens with them, and hopefully they can take on, even if they go, not 500, but even if they're playing decent basketball, not great basketball, but decent basketball, they should still easily find their way into the playoffs with 10 teams.
Agreed. And that's the thing right now. It's so tight as far as games back go. I think between 4th and 10th, it's a 2-game back stretch. So it's wide open almost.
2.5 games, something like that.
It's wide open for any team that gets hot to go on a run. And like you said, with 10 in this year, I could easily see the Bulls getting into the playoffs this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's one of the questions I've been waiting to get your opinion on. We had somebody send in, and they want to know your mind, greatest of all time, transcending sport, no matter what sport they play, the greatest of all time, the GOAT of GOATs, Michael Jordan or Tom Brady. Before you answer, I know we're all from Chicago and we got love for Michael, but think about it. Who you taking?
That's a difficult question. And the only reason I say that is the time difference that the two have played their sports. 2, Tom Brady is the GOAT of football. I think that's undisputed. It was undisputed before he won this last Super Bowl.
You know what? Sorry to cut you off, but it looks like Derek made it. We were having some technical difficulties. We'll be with you right 1 minute. We're gonna add Derrick Ross here in just a minute.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, just real quick, I guess while we're waiting for Derek to join us,
absolutely.
I can speak to that a little bit more. I think it's almost difficult to compare the two, just because you almost can't compare a football and basketball player. I mean, yes, they are both, in my opinion, the greatest of their sports, but it would be hard pressed to put a winner on that for me. I think Jordan was obviously the greatest basketball player, and I mean, just bridging on that question a little bit, him versus LeBron, in my mind, it's clearly undisputed that Jordan is the better of the two. LeBron James is a great player, but the defense that Jordan faced in the league in the 90s was completely different than the defense that LeBron James is facing in the league today. And I don't want to take anything away from LeBron James. He's one of the best to ever play the game. But when you look at it, Jordan, some of the things he did were just unbelievable. I mean, and especially with the Last Dance documentary coming out and getting to see some of the behind the scenes stuff that we had never heard about before, I was shocked to hear about him playing with his feet bleeding in his shoes, still putting up 40 plus points a game, things like that. That's a different kind of animal.
Absolutely. So I just want to welcome in right now the GOAT. We must have said the GOAT too many times. He found us, Derrick Ross, the GOAT.
What's up, man? How you doing?
You even got the GOAT sweatshirt on. How did I know? Well, we said GOAT too many times?
No, man. You know how it is. It's just a blessing, man. How y'all doing today?
I'm great. How you doing?
Blessed, good. Man. Blessed, man. Good to do the show.
Yeah, you're our first guest. Premiere episode.
First guest on the show, man. I'm excited right now.
You're what?
I'm excited right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We're excited as well. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Thank you guys. Seriously.
Oh man, it's our pleasure. So I feel like you and I have known each other a few years.
Uh
So
huh.
I thought I knew everything about you. So, but I'm doing my job. I'm researching you, and what do I see? The first thing I see come up: your first game at Tarleton State, 260 yards on 20 carries.
Yeah, my first game in college, man. They recruited me to Tarleton State, and then I went there, and it was like, man, you might not be able to play because we have a senior running back. But the coach was like, hey, we're gonna put you in there against the number one defense in the conference. And I was like, all right, I'm pumped up, man. So honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I took a bunch of Red Bull that game, and man, I just ran, son. I swear, it was like 269 yards at the end of the game with like 4 touchdowns, and I broke a record my first game there. And they benched the senior running back, and I never looked back.
That's crazy. It's like everywhere you go, you're setting records.
I mean,
You
it was a blessing, man. I've been playing football ever since I was 10. So, my mama put me in all these training camps and stuff like that. So it was a blessing. Everywhere I went, I broke records, man, except the Kansas City Chiefs. I didn't get to break no records there, but I let them know me. I let them know that I was there.
absolutely. That brings up
Absolutely.
one of my questions. When you played at college and arena, you ran the ball so much. What was it like going to the NFL? You get your shot in the NFL, and the difference between playing fullback in the NFL and running back everywhere else.
I'm just gonna be honest, man. I mean, you understand, I'm from Huntsville, Texas. I'm from the country. So when my agents, they was like, man, you coming to New York, you know what I'm saying? That was my first time on the plane. I got on the plane, I went to New York, man. Everything was so expensive in New York, but I didn't have to pay for it. My agents paid for it. So it was like, Derek, you about to be a rich man. And I was like, man, I'm still in this poverty, you know what I mean? We're like, wow, this gonna be awesome. So they gave me my first check, you know what I'm saying? And after they gave me my first check, about 2 weeks later, I had to report for training camp. And I went in the locker room with Tony Gonzalez and Trent Green and Larry Johnson and all those badasses, man. And I'm telling you, man, I was like a kid in the candy store because I went around everybody in the locker room. I was asking, how much you make? How much you make? Because I was young. I didn't know no better. You know what I'm saying? My check was only 350,000 a week. So their check was like 1 million a week. So I was
Hold on,
like,
hold
what
on.
the
You
fuck?
just said only 350,000 a week.
Yeah. But in the NFL, $1 million a week is like normal to
Right.
me. But I was a rookie, so I was making like less. So I was like, damn, man, just to see how those guys move around, and I actually really paid attention to those guys. It was a blessing, man. I got to see the Range Rovers. I finally the Maybachs and stuff like that. I got to drive them. You know what I'm saying? From the country, man. That's always awesome to me, man.
And then from there, you went to where? Toronto.
Yeah, from there, I mean, after I went from the Kansas City Chiefs, I went to Europe. They sent me
Okay.
a package. They was like, Ross, do you want to travel? I was like, yeah, I'll travel. They say, do you want to go to Europe? I'm like, I'm not paying for it. And they was like, sure. So they allocated me to the Germany. It was the Cologne Centurions, man. And I stayed in Europe for a year, and that was the greatest, best experience I ever had in my life. And as I went over there, I wasn't just partying, but I was actually balling. I became the MVP over there in the whole league. And then after that, I came back and it was like, Ross, you really just did that? I'm like, yeah, man. I just hated their food. So I was eating a lot of burgers, so I got a little hefty. You know what I mean? You know how your stomach, you know how guys is.
Yeah.
We get to eating
Oh,
good shit. So I got overweight. I went to training camp and Herm Edwards was like, Ross, you got to put you on a weight program. So every morning from then at like 6 a.m., they would wake me up and I had to work out all that fat. So finally, I was like, man, am I really going to make this team? So I just bawled, man. You understand? You understand? It was like black, man. Everything like the Larry Johnson did, I tried to do, but faster, or I tried to do quicker. And before you know it, I just started going up and up in the totem pole, and I ended up making a team. God damn it, my phone needs charging. But yeah, man, it was a truly blessing. And then after that, Canada called me, and then Montreal, and I went to Montreal and Winnipeg. I played over there for a year. Canada was too cold. I didn't like Canada at all. So I was like, man, I'm coming back to the States. And then my girlfriend at the time, we was in San Antonio. The bills was paid up, and she was like, Derek, since you like football so much, you should go play again. Because all I did was play Madden, and you know what I mean. And she got
right.
annoyed with that. So I went to go play San Angelo. That's when I met Clint Dozell. That's when my arena started. And man, once I played on the arena, that was like my second shot, and I was like, man, I finna make the best of this. And I started training, eating good, and doing everything right. And I became the number one running back in the league, man. And GOAT, you know what I mean? So it's all been a
Absolutely.
blessing, man. A lot of dedication. Don't get me wrong, setbacks too, but a lot of dedication.
Well, just goes to speak, you went from, going to Tarleton State, which not that there's anything wrong with that, but you hear a lot of premier players. Oh, I went to Alabama, I went to
Yeah,
LSU,
that's what I'm
these
saying.
big time programs, and then you look at your
At the
resume
national
and you're like,
combine,
you're like, wow, he started there, and then you went to the Kansas City Chiefs, and then you went to NFL Europe, MVP, CFL, AFL, which we all know was a league that nobody ran in.
that's what
And
I'm
next thing
saying.
you
It's
know,
like
you're not only leading the league in running, they changed the way they called
I
offense because they
changed
had
the
to get you the
whole
ball.
system. I made everybody around the league go get running backs. I made everybody go around because Dozell had a system for me. He was like, Ross, I'm not giving you the ball unless you get at least 4 yards a pop. That's all he had to tell me. That's all he had to tell me. And I was getting 4 and 6s and 8s and 60-yard runs. And they was like, whoa, you're not supposed to be able to do that in this league. And then they just kept giving me the ball. And then next year, everybody went to go get a running back.
Amazing. So before I don't want to keep you too long. Before we let you go, tell us a little bit of what are you into now with this Mr. CBD?
All right. So what happened was I stopped my career. I retired, whatever, and I created an apparel store where and my shirt, the goat. You know what I'm saying? My goat brand and
Got
everything,
one of
and it was selling. So yeah, you got one actually. Hey, it was selling so. Oh my God, my phone died.
We can still
That's so
hear you.
rude. Oh my God, I just fucked up that.
We can still hear you.
You're still with it. I think we might have lost.
I
Derek.
just died.
Oh, that's too bad, man. I wanted to ask him about that bowling ball touchdown.
Yeah, the
That he
lawnmower.
had.
The lawnmower, because that's his
Yep.
signature. We'll have him on again. We'll have him on again on a future
Yeah,
show.
we'll have to bring
he
him
was
back
trying to
for
jump
sure.
on in between some things. I guess he didn't get his phone charged.
Hey, that's all right, man. He was good to talk to. Glad we got him on for a few minutes. So
Yeah, it's crazy to hear from a guy who, like I said, you just hear so many of the premier players. They went to such big time schools. You hear Tarleton State. I'll be honest, I never heard of that until he said that's where he went. And you
Agreed.
start to look at just the different things that inspire athletes. Like you said, he went to Kansas City, and so many premier players were there already. And he was like, "Well, I just watched what they did and tried to do it better."
Right. Did he play under Coach Reed at Kansas City?
No, he
No.
did not. He played under Herm Edwards.
Edwards. Okay.
Yeah, he's been in AFL for the last several years before he retired, but now he's working with Mr. CBD and doing some stuff with that, and we'll have to have him on again, and he can go into more depth about that.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely have to bring him back. Sad our time got cut short, but
Yeah,
it was good to pull him on. I mean,
live programming,
right? Absolutely.
So I want to give my opinion. Go back to what we were talking about with GOATs. Speaking of Derrick Ross, and go back to the Brady Jordan thing.
Yeah.
Every time I talk basketball, I don't care who they're talking about. I say it's Michael Jordan's a GOAT by far. No competition, no challenge, no nothing. I think I finally I think I finally found what a situation I wouldn't go with him. I got to go Brady. He owns more Super Bowl victories than every franchise in the NFL.
This is true.
When you own or when you win more Super Bowl wins, more everything. There's been in 10 Super Bowls, 7 for 10. I saw some crazy stat about the percentage of Super Bowls Tom Brady's been in since he's been in the league. When you do all that, how can you compare him to anybody else? There's always going to be that Jordan LeBron debate.
Right.
There's God rest so there's the Kobe Jordan debate. There's all these debates. What quarterback could you say is better than Brady? Yeah, people go back way, 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 way back. But until somebody else got 7 Super Bowl rings, not trips, he's got 10 trips.
Right.
You look at they show because it's the first year the Patriots didn't make the playoffs, but they show like the last time the Patriots missed the playoffs, the gas price is this, and the first movie was this. And it's like I don't even remember half of that shit. Like is he's
You
there
know,
every year.
I would say one thing in the quarterback realm. I think if we were to see a guy like Joe Montana play in today's league with just the way the game has evolved, I think if you saw a guy like Montana playing today, he may be close. He'd be in that upper echelon. I don't know that he would have more success than Tom in today's league. Nobody can say that, but realistically, I think that when it comes to football, he is the GOAT, and I understand the argument. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and then as we talk about transcending sports, our next guest, he's a guy, he's dominated at football. He now dominates for the second time as a pro fighter, a guy that has done both at a very high level. He also played at NFL Europe. That's part of his story as
Yep.
well. He's now known as the Dream Killer, Lorenzo Hood. My
What's up,
boy,
man?
what's good?
What's happening? What's happening?
You tell me.
Man, chilling like a villain.
Yeah, so tell me about this upcoming fight.
Oh, man. We're fighting a very tall dude, man. March 20th, we fight kickboxer. I think he was like 31-0 as a kickboxer. He's like 6'9.5".
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a super tall dude. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm a kickboxer. He's a kickboxer, so I feel like we're not going to want to take each other down. Although, everybody I fight, they always say they want to stand up, and then somehow they always want to panic wrestle. So
I wouldn't want to stand up against you either.
man, I'm just excited, man. I feel like this fight is hopefully the last fight before obviously the UFC. Super excited about that. Fingers crossed about that, especially with them releasing the two Overeem and Dos Santos. I
Yeah,
feel
absolutely.
like this would be my 15th first round knockout. Because that's what's gonna happen. But man, that's 15 dudes I put to sleep in the first, man. I don't really facts, man. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. I mean, for me, man, it's just about putting in the hard work, man. My story's that of nothing but just hard work. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stay on my soapbox here a little bit. I don't know how, but if this gets to Dana White, Dana, speaking as a fan, this is what we want to see out of your heavyweights. We're tired of them slow ass lay on each other heavyweights. You're gonna bring John Jones into the heavyweights. Who better to have him fight than Lorenzo Hood? Two guys who can do it all. You got a guy like Lorenzo. He goes through bare knuckle, no takedowns only, whatever kind of fight it is. I've seen you in it. What was that one you were in? It was like a triangle ring.
Yeah, so when I was first coming back to the sport, MMA was they didn't have MMA yet, just the UFC. So I was like, well, what's available for combat sports right now? Because I need to fight. I want to get back into it. And they had bare knuckle fights going down in Florida. And obviously, me being a Florida guy, I was, so I took the fight. I, basically was just getting back into it. This was last year. In February, we started training camp. And, bare knuckle fight against a super tough, gritty MMA veteran, Justin Grizzard, big dude. So I fought him in a triangle ring. I mean, I knocked him out in like 30 seconds. I was just coming back into it. I was just starting to get back into my own. So for me, man, I'm down to 250 now. When I weighed into that fight, I was like 285. 1252 Sports. That's my first name. I will always love that name. It's forever be my name. The silverback tattoo. The logo. That's my shit, man. So I always miss that. But that was a triangle. That was a bare knuckle fight. That was a great experience. That was fun. That was super fun.
That's the first time I ever seen that. I was like, what the hell kind of ring is he in?
Yeah, it was a super small ring, man. It really forced you to fight. Obviously, for the striker, that's always a great thing.
Yeah, that smaller ring kind of makes you push the pace a little bit.
Yeah. It's that the MMA cages, like the new ones with COVID, are a lot smaller, which makes the fights a lot more fun. Except for like the last heavyweight fight that we seen, Cyril Gane against Chirino Rosenthal. I mean, oh my goodness. You know, my thing is this, man. Like, as a heavyweight myself, and as a fan, before anything, even if I wasn't a fighter, I respect and understand the discipline in which it takes jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, everything that goes into every single discipline. But at the end of the day, I'm in a main event, right? In the UFC. They've given me this spotlight in which now everybody around the world gets to see me, and I come out and throw less than 10 punches. I come out and I don't even put on a show of any which way, shape, or form other than me showing you that like I can sweat just like you can and run around the ring. And I mean, like, you know, there's and again, I respect everybody at the highest of levels because I understand the dedication and what it takes to get there. And I understand that we all have bad outings. We all have things that happen. But at the end of the day, there's an entertainment value in which you owe yourself, not even the people, but you owe yourself, you owe your coaches. Like, see, I think nowadays, and this is where I feel like I'm different in my life. Like people are scared to risk losing by doing something exciting. Because now it's just like, oh, I gotta win at all costs, right? So even if I'm gonna dry hump your leg for 25 minutes and it's gonna be the most boring shit you have ever seen, I'm gonna do it because that's gonna get me a win. As opposed to me, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna try some crazy shit, man. And if I land it, it's gonna be on ESPN. And if I don't, and it happens to put me in a bad position, well, guess what? Then I'm gonna work my way out of that bad position. And if it happens to be a reason that I lose a fight, let's just say I went for something extremely crazy, I missed it, and I lost a fight, I'll never be mad at myself. My coaches will never be mad because that's who we are. You know, that's like the excitement value that you live in. You know, it's such a thin line between, you know, being great and doing something outstanding and then just being just mediocre, you know. And just think about how many guys right now are outside of the UFC that are just mediocre. You know, like you may have a guy with the same record as me, you know, it might be 14-4, but he might have 14 decisions. Or he might be 18-0 with 18 decisions. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to watch a guy just go out there and have 18 decisions as heavyweight. You know, the heavyweight division, like I spoke about this maybe a month or two ago. I said, used to be the most coveted thing in the entire world. I'll answer that in 1 second, but you know, like it used to be the most coveted thing in the entire planet to be a heavyweight champion, to just be a heavyweight competing in boxing, combat sport, kickboxing. And now when heavyweight fights come on, I feel like people just are like, well, you know, let me go get my beer, let me go get my pop, let me text, let me get on, you know, let me do whatever I like. This last main event, you know, people went to sleep watching that.
Right.
You know, and then here's the UFC's. You know, you have a top 7 prospect and a number 3 prospect in the world. Again, nothing against them. Huge fan. I'm totally respectful of all the hard work they put in. But it's like, at the end of the day, bro, like Rosenthal was scared. He didn't want to throw a punch because he was scared he was going to get caught. Cyril Gane was scared to throw his kicks, and all he was trying to do because he was nervous about getting caught. Like, it's going to happen, man. We're going to get hit. You know, and shit, I got a black eye right now, you know, one of these bad boys. Just from, you know, being in training, you know. I mean, you're going to get hit as part of the game, you know. To answer somebody's question, let's see. Oh, man. You know, I would say Jesse Ray Childrey, man. Jesse Ray Childrey was probably, you know, I fought that dude early on in my career, and he was, man, it was like his nickname was like Frankenstein or the Zombie or something like that, man. And this dude, like when you watch his highlights as an amateur and as a pro, like people would hit him with a steel hammer, and this dude would just keep coming forward, keep coming forward. And so like we took that fight on like 6 days notice. And this guy was like, he was like super high grappler wrestler, like extremely talented, you know, college wrestler, high school wrestler, could have went more if he wanted to. So I was like extremely nervous, man, because at the time I was too stupid and too young to like know that I needed to train all aspects of the game. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna knock everybody I ever touch out with these or with these, you know? So going into that fight, I probably did all of like 35 minutes of wrestling. And, you know, the only thing we were planning for in that fight was I was like, I know he's going to attack me on a double leg. I know he's going to push me against the cage. I was like, I have to stop him, and I'm going to elbow him. And literally for 6 days straight, we trained putting my hips in for the double leg, wrapping an underhook, and then elbowing here. The fight starts out. I come out, I threw a right hook. He ducked underneath. Boom, double leg, right to the cage. I grabbed an underhook, and 16 seconds later, I had him out cold. The referee didn't even want to stop it. It's on one of my highlights. But the referee was so scared he was going to get hit with an elbow that he didn't want to jump in on time. And the dude just was limp out cold, man. So it was one of the scariest. But, I always say this, like, behind, like, what you fear most is the most gratifying achievement is, like, right behind it. But we're most of the time in life, we're so scared of whatever it is that's right here that we don't get to that, to that next stage, So instead, we just rather say, I didn't do it, and I could have did it, I should have did it, I would have made it, We make all these excuses for ourselves. That's the change in my career and in my life. It's just like, hey, like, we're gonna go for it, whatever.
So tell us a little bit, right now with everything going on in the world being shut down like it's been the last year has been a year like nobody's ever seen before. Yeah, you find yourself with the arrow pointing straight up. I mean, not just a little up, not just kind of. I mean, your shit is pointing straight to the top. How did you attack this last year, and how do you go into training taking on so many more fights? A lot of fighters, they fight 2 fights a year. I mean, it's like every 2 months you're fighting somebody. It's like somebody calls, "Hey, we got a bare knuckle." Cool, I'm there. Hey, we got a submission only. Cool, I'm there. Like, it's just every time I look up, you're fighting somebody.
Yeah,
How did
man.
you go about doing that without being able to train like normal and do everything normal?
Well, first of all, let me say this, man, and God is good. Let me start that by saying that. Secondly, man, for those who know me in my close circle, which is very small, few people, um, I was forged in fire, bro. I was made for hell. I was made for the shit. Like 2020 and was hell for everyone. And for me, I was like, yo, I was born in this shit. I was born into all the craziness. So like I've been to all the chaos and all the all the undoubt and the not knowing. Like, I spent my whole childhood living in that. So for me, while the world was kind of crumbling and going crazy, I was just like, hey, I've been here before. Let me just sink into whatever it is I'm trying to do, and you know take advantage of all these things that are here, right? Because there's so many fighters that were getting calls to go and fight, but I don't have training. I can't train. My gym's not open. So instead, for me, it was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go find me an outside place, get my workouts in out there, grab me a wrestling dummy, pick up my wrestling dummy, train, call my coach, big shout out to Coach Paul. We're working outside, we're training, we're getting it in. He's an hour and a half away from me, and we're traveling to each other and back and forth, vice versa, to get ready for our fights. And um, my goal in 2020 was to get back where I left off in 2016. Yeah, keg lifts. Yeah, man. That was my goal. My goal was to get back to the stardom, to the, just so people remembered the name, because, when I left in 2016, I came back and fought one more time in 2018 for Vegas Knights. I fought Ronald Carter, the 6'7" Russian who was like 17-16, and I knocked him out in the first round with a head kick. But I still wasn't, like, in 2016, I had a devastating knee injury right before the biggest fight of my life. And that just devastated me, man. It depressed me. It took a lot out of me. And then I came back way too soon from the injury, and I lost the fight. I still was on one leg, and that was it for me, man. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that I, one, had lost. Two, like, I was mad at myself for coming back way too fast, not doing the proper rehab, not listening to people, still being super arrogant, super ignorant to the fact that, like, there was a lot of things that I needed to do in my game and just in my rehab in itself. And when I lost, man, I didn't have anybody to blame but myself. And when you finally, like, become honest with yourself and realize that, like, there's no one to blame but you, it's like really hard thing to, like, I don't know, man, I couldn't deal with it. So, and I say this, like, for those who follow me, when I do my lives and people ask me questions, I always talk about this. The old me back then, I was a mental midget. I say this all the time. My mental game was here. I was so small. It was like I couldn't anything that was out of order, anything that was like not what I was on the path on, and it came into my life, it like threw me completely, and I couldn't focus on anything. And there was always a reason why it wasn't working, right? But the reason it wasn't working was because of me. But back then, I every reason that happened, man, I was never me. It was always something else, and it was always this or it was always that, man. And there was always a reason why could have been somebody else's fault and why it shouldn't have happened. And now the version of me that steps into the cage or steps into the training room or gets up every single morning on the grind and makes all these sacrifices. Like now, this dude is just like, hey, man, I manifest everything. I bring everything to the table in regards to getting up every single morning at 4:37 in the morning, to training until 9, 10 a.m. at p.m. at night, to miss, on my birthday, being in the gym, busting my ass, busting my nose, busting my eye, laughing, loving life. Like, it's all about what you manifest out of it. And my mentality now is there's no excuses. I allow myself zero excuses. I don't lie to myself. I just keep it real. I just continue to push forward. I have this saying, 1% better every single day. Like, and that's in everything I do, not just in my MMA game, like being a man, as everything is. I just practice on being 1% better every single day. And I feel like since I've started that, which was 2020, man, I've kind of just been whooping ass just in life, and so 2020 came around again, just to get back to that. And, the opportunities were there. And I was like, hey, coach, me and my coaches, Coach Paul, we sat down and now Coach Roberto from Chicago Fight Team, which I'll talk about them in a little bit. But we sat down and we're like, hey, listen, like, I want to come back into this game, not just to get back into it, but I want to test myself against the best in the world, because I feel like I am one of the best in the world. And that wasn't like me being like, oh, I'm cocky. No, that was me being like, the reason I'm going to get off this couch and kill myself in training and bust my ass and sacrifice everything around me is for the fact that I want to get to the UFC, right? So, like, we were offered a nice contract a couple of weeks ago for another big organization. I won't say it, but it was really nice deal. But we're like, no, I'm good. No disrespect, but thank you, but like, I need to get there. So 2020 came around. I fought 3 times in 2020. I knocked out 3 dudes. It was 2 bare knuckles, 1 MMA. And that was in December, was my last fight. And then January came around and I fought MMA and beat a black belt, which, the guy his record wasn't good, but he was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And in my career, for those who followed me, the only times I'd ever lost were the high-level grapplers like that. So when we found out that this dude was a teacher at a school and he was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and that he had fought another couple guys who had just went to the UFC, we're like, man, what better way than this guy, right? And at first, he wasn't even offered to us. We just told the matchmaker, like, hey, whoever it is, make sure that this dude is black belt or a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. They came to us with him, like, immediately we're like, yes, we want to fight him. We didn't even know what his record was. We just knew that he was a black belt. We knew that he had fought another guy, Chad Johnson, who had just fought in the UFC's Contender Show, who I wanted to fight. But, of course, sometimes when that happens, when you got one of those, man, sometimes you run from fights. But I won't talk about that, man. So anyways, so we took the fight in January. And I told everybody, I said, listen, I'm going to take this dude down. I'm going to control him on the ground. And I'm going to show you that where my game is evolving. Because as you see, a lot of these guys, like, I'm a high-level striker. My striking continues to get better and better and better and better. But my wrestling was always in jiu-jitsu was like so far apart. Like, the nervousness, the anxiety I would go through, like, if I was going to go to wrestling. And now, man, it's now it's all getting up here together, man. And it's like such a scary, exciting thing for me, because it enables me to throw more strikes, different variations of strikes, because I no longer fear, like, if I get taken down, it's okay. Or guess what? If we clinch, I'm going to throw you and I'm going to hurt you. And if I get you on the ground, I'm going to punish you. My coach, Lewis Taylor, says one thing all the time: make them pay. Make them pay for all. And so I always say, like, man, I'm going to make you pay for all your sins. I'm going to bless you. And then now, obviously getting ready to fight March 20th, and then we fight April 2nd is scheduled already too. we have that schedule. We're hoping, man, again, like I keep saying, man, we're hoping it's just March 20th and that's it. We're good to go. If not, we got April 2nd lined up right there. Who is your dream fight against? Whew. Let's see.
John Jones.
Man, I would love to fight John Jones, man. Like, no offense, I think he's one of the greatest of all times to ever do it. But he hasn't finished anybody since 2013. Like when
I
you
only
think
said
about
that
that.
because you were talking about fighting him
Right.
But
not too
I'm
long
just saying,
ago.
like, if you think about John Jones, like he hasn't finished anybody since 2013. Now he's moving up to the heavyweight division. No one's scared. Who's my dream fight? My dream fight would be Ngannou. I feel like he has one
That would
punch
be a hell
knockout
of a
power,
fight.
right, in his right hand. I have one punch knockout power in both hands. And I have knockout power in both shins and both knees and both elbows.
And
You know what I
everything
mean?
in
Like, I
between.
feel like that fight right there would be great, man. Like, and I'm not gonna run. I'm gonna be right there in your face, and I'm gonna let you know, like, let's do this. Like, and so for me, like, that's the fight that I continue to every day. When I'm hurt, when I'm injured, when I'm sore, when I'm tired. I think about that in my head. Or Stipe Miocic, I'm like the guy who has the belt right now, right? Because in the heavyweight division, literally, you could go into the UFC, starch 2 or 3 people. Next thing you know, you're in line for a title.
Right.
So
Right.
in my mind, I'm like, okay, starch these next 1 or 2 opponents that I have. Get into the USADA testing pool. It takes 3 months before you can fight once you enter the USADA testing pool, unless it's a short notice fight. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, let's just say I get in April, May, June, July. We're talking about August, man. The world's back open. Like, let your boy fight at the United Center. You know what I'm saying? Or wherever it may be, man. But make my UFC debut in August. And then, man, for like Turtle and the guys that know me, man, I'm knocking whoever out in August. And I'm going back. Man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. I want to fight August, and I'll fight like September. I'll fight again in December. Like I just want to I want to stay super active. Like again for me, staying active keeps my mind on the staying ready to go where we need to be. Like my coaches will tell me to take the day off, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need it. Like let me just get there. Let me do what I got to do. And every day it's just that same grind. You teach yourself to constantly overcome like the uncomfortable shit that's going on in your body and in your mind or outside in your life. And you start dealing with that stuff, man. And you start to realize how laser focused you become, because the one thing I've learned, and this is the sad truth. The one thing I've learned about this road to like success and like the road to the top is it's lonely as shit. Don't nobody understand what you're going through. No one wants to, like everybody talks to like, what everyone notices, like when you're in the UFC and your hand is raised and you've won, that's what everyone knows. They don't know all the other shit in between that you go through. They don't know the nights that you get home and you have to crawl to the fucking bathtub to get into an ice bath, or or it's a holiday and you're at the gym training, or it's your birthday and you're at the gym training, or you're missing you're missing your friend's wedding, or you're missing this, or you're not celebrating. It's a Saturday and all your boys are at the house chilling and you're at the gym. It's just a long, and again, I don't. For me, it's just like, hey, let's just do what we got to do. And it's extremely fun. It's extremely. I always say I'm just blessed, man. Like a guy like me, man, a kid like me, man. Like I'm blessed to be even here with the UFC in sight. Like so that for me, every day that I get to wake up and do this that I love, it's such an amazing. I'm living a dream, man. Like I'm living a dream in which plenty of people forget, and I talk about it on my lives all the time, man. Like chasing that dream. Who's your first fight you want when you go to the UFC? Man, anybody, man. Honestly, I don't care. I really don't. If whoever it is, like we're gonna get ready for it, and we're gonna do what we got to do. I don't really feel like there's a specific guy that I'm like. I really wanted to fight Overeem because I thought that stylistically that would be a really cool matchup.
That was my first thought when I saw he was released. I was like, oh.
Yeah, like 2 kickboxers, 2 big dudes, 2 Dutch kickboxers. I was like, oh, man, this would be a great fight, me versus Overeem. Now that he's released, I really don't have a preference in who I fight. It's like whatever, we're gonna fight. And honestly, that's the type of mindset I try to keep, because I can go in there and be like, oh, I'm gonna fight this guy. I know him, and then all of a sudden, you never know who you're fighting. And I just keep myself in the disappointment of it.
So to switch gears a little bit, and I won't make you go through your whole story. Maybe we could have you on another time and and have you go through that. But talk about, a lot of people, man. When they go through, I'll just say like you with football guys, they go through football, they chase that contract. You were just talking about you turned down a good contract because you're focused on that UFC. Talk about what it's like to, for those who don't know, you turned down a CFL offer multiple times. Teams came trying to sign you and bring you to the CFL, and now other fight promotions trying to bring you in. Talk about what it's like to how you not necessarily not be afraid, but that ultimate confidence that even though that's what I'm chasing and that's where I'm trying to go, I'm actually trying to go past it. And what it's like to turn down what so many people would jump at in a heartbeat, to all of a sudden realize that you want more.
Man, first of all, let me say this. I've failed more times than I will ever succeed in my lifetime. So, and I feel like that's my greatest strength, is understanding that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not succeed at something, because in my eyes, it's like I wasn't too. Although it's scary, and although like the failure and not making it or not doing something is, it's never a cool thing to go through. But I feel like when you learn how to learn from the situations that you failed at, I feel like then you really can't lose. So, for me, man, being an athlete since a young age was the only thing I really ever had. And being, that's probably the only reason that I'm even here, still standing, still living, still breathing, was because I was a good athlete. And that was the thing that kept me going and helped me get through school and everything. Honestly, man, I feel like in a way, you have to, at some point, bet on yourself, in everything you're doing. You have to take that risk. You have to go out there and step out on that ledge and say, I'm not going to fall. No matter how windy it gets up here, I'm not going to fall. And listen, I fell off that damn ledge 1,000 times, right? But the difference now is I'm willing to fall 1,000 more times just for that one time that wind doesn't blow me down. So this time around in my life, I feel like I'm on that ledge and I'm just standing up there with my arms open and saying like, hey, let's go. And I'm, and I continuously will always walk out to that ledge. As to where before in my life, I just would rather not step on that ledge and say, well, I almost made it. I could have made it. I did. Or I'd go on that ledge and jump myself so that I didn't have to worry about succeeding if I stood on top of that ledge, if I withstood the storm. So like now betting on yourself, like I had people, from the CFL, and people from everywhere always wanted me to come play ball and offer me lots and lots of money. And I'd be like, no, I'm cool. And not because guys would die for these contracts. Guys would die for these opportunities. But for me, it was always like, and Turtle knows, like from knowing me personally, like I always felt like there was just a higher thing, right? Like there was just a higher purpose I had. And I was like, man, I haven't found it yet. Like the WWE offered me a contract. I went down to the WWE. I spent 3 days there. They offered me a contract on the first day for NXT, to come down there and live down there and be part of their whole thing. I was like, no, I'm cool. Football, pro football, like all the different things in my life that I've always been like, nah, I'm good, man. Like I turned them down. Not because I was better than them or anything, just because I always just felt like that wasn't it. Like it just wasn't it. Like I knew it wasn't the thing that would get me out of bed, that would make me become mentally strong. And like when this came around, and I was like, oh wow, like this is it. Oh man. If it's real me, man, if it's WWE, I'm sure Stone Cold would win. I'm sure they wouldn't let me win. But I think again, you just have to really like. There's a lot of guys right now in the fight world that would have took the deal that I just turned down, right? Like I would say, I think it was like total worth 4 fights worth. I don't know, 4 fights worth like almost $500,000 or something like that. Maybe a little less or something like that. But again, it's not where you want to be. Like, don't just take things because it's there and it's now, right? Like in life, we take it, we just grab it and we're like, okay, like, but you got to understand, like, you bet on yourself, right? It's like, okay, you know how good you are, you know what you can succeed, you know how great you are. So with you knowing how great you are, you have to understand that there's a value with that, and you know your value. So like, it's not about the money for me. I don't care about that. It's about just getting to fulfill my destiny, my legacy. And my legacy is to get to the UFC and become UFC heavyweight champion. That's my legacy. That's my destiny, and that's where I know I need to be. And if, man, watching a man go to sleep by knocking somebody out is my favorite way to get a W. But I feel like when you understand what your value is, when you know it, and when you can kind of see it and you start to manifest it, then there's nothing that anybody can tell you outside of whatever it is that you're seeing that you want to take. You don't want to accept it, because you're like, anything short of that, you feel like you're cheating yourself. And so for me, that's what I feel like. I feel like if I take something else right now, if I was to sign with another organization, if I was to do something different, I feel like I would be cheating and lying to myself. And that's something that, like, me and myself are on a very close basis, and we don't lie to each other.
So switching directions a little bit, we'll get you out of here soon. I know I
appreciate
all the time you've given us.
I got actually, man, I cleared like an hour and a half for you guys. So whatever you need, bro.
I appreciate that. So I know you're a big Jacksonville Jaguars fan. So you got 11 picks coming this year. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence first, and $100 million in cap. They were the worst team in football this year. What do they do next year?
Man, sign Jesus.
Jesus.
Man, you just got to, obviously, as you know, man, like, you got to get a good quarterback. And presuming that Trevor Lawrence comes back healthy and he's the guy that he was, for the 3.5 years we saw him. This last year or so he was injured, though, whatever.
Right.
Assuming he was that guy, that's a good starting piece, man. And then we go, you take it from there. I was hoping maybe they would have signed J.J. Watt. It would have been really cool.
I thought they might get all that money. I
definitely thought they would sign J.J. Watt. Deshaun Watson might be somebody to go after. Russell Wilson, and have Trevor Lawrence sit behind him for 2-3 years. You can go and get him. There's a bunch of different ways you can go, man. But I think it really starts just with Jacksonville, man, it's their defense is always good, but their offense always struggles, right?
Yeah.
Even when they went to the AFC Championship a couple years ago, their offense against the Patriots, their offense they took vacation in the second half. Yeah, Blake. So I mean, if Blake Bortles can take you there, just based on the defense and having to manage the game, then we just got to get a solid quarterback. So again, if I'm them, I go after Russell Wilson. I sit Trevor Lawrence for a year or two behind Russell, and I let him learn from one of the greatest quarterbacks to do it. And then obviously you go out and you start getting guys, man. You start putting guys around. Look at Tampa Bay, man. They built a team in 2-3 months, just from guys that you were like, okay, who cares?
A bunch of guys that nobody wanted.
Next thing you know, now everybody's like, oh man, that receiver, oh that tight end, oh that running back, oh this guy, and basically you had a team of misfits that nobody thought would have fit together in Tampa Bay. That all of a sudden now, Tampa Bay looks whooping on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
What do you think about Urban Meyer?
I mean, again, man, like,
not the way you would have went.
These legendary coaches in college, how many of them have been great coaches in the NFL?
Not many.
That's my thing. Like, that's my only thing I get.
Saban went running back to college.
You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, what happens? These great Hall of Fame college coaches come to the NFL, and where do they end back in like 2-3 years?
Back in
college.
Back in college.
And I don't know why that is. Where can people see the next fight? And are you jumping on Twitter? Yes, I will be jumping on. Actually, I think I have a Twitter. Look, I think I have one. I just don't I'm never on Twitter, man. So let me hold on. I'll tell you it right now. I'm pretty sure It's let me see what my Twitter is, man. So I can just give you guys that. I don't know. I'm never on Twitter. All right, it's the Dream Killer. It's at NyQuil Hands DK.
Of course it is.
It's at NyQuil Hands DK, man. You know, and I'll post that in the link for you guys. Let me see. In my next fight, you could once I get the links and everything, man, I'll get it up. They've been extremely slow with this last promotion. I know they had a fight coming on this week, so I know that they were super busy, but like the fight cards and my fight and this guy's fight was actually like a late notice addition to the card. So and I guess my opponent's been you know, I don't know, crying about some shit. Who knows? I don't know. He was like, they wanted to come in at super heavyweight. I'm like, bro, we're at heavyweights. Fighting at super heavyweight does nothing for me at all. Like the UFC doesn't have a super heavyweight division. I won't fight at super heavyweight anymore. Like I like the way I feel at 250, 251. Like I'm not going back up to 267, 270. So bring your fat ass down to 266 and we'll fight. You know, and I don't care honestly. I'll fight him at 250 and he can weigh whatever the hell he wants. But the problem is the athletic commission won't allow it. You know,
Right.
So for me, I'm like, I don't really care what he weighs. You could weigh 7,000 pounds for all I care. Like it won't stop you from going to sleep. But, you know, I don't know. So I guess he's been going back and forth with promotion, trying to get them. They asked me if I would go up to super heavyweight. I said, I'm not gaining 16 pounds just for this dude. Like that's no, like I feel amazing right now. And if that means that fight doesn't happen and then, you know, find me another opponent or, hey, you know, I'll pass and wait for April 2nd, you know? So I think that's what's going on right now. I think that's why it's been so delayed in terms of like getting me a poster and all the other news and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously who doesn't want to fight in Miami?
Right.
You know, like what a beautiful place to be, and it's open down there, and man, you know, it's great down there. But yeah, well, as soon as I get the link for either of my fights, my next fight I'm going back to VFC. April 2nd is VFC Valor again. I had a great show in Tennessee down there. The other fight March 20th in Miami. So like again, I'll post those links for everybody and keep that going. You know, something you said though that I think people need to get, and you are a good example of this. Me, a good example of this. Like, you got to be resilient. You got to be resilient, man. Because the one thing about life, like people look at me now and they're like, bro, you got nice cars, you got nice jewelry, you got nice shit around you, you got all this shit. Like, oh, you're such a lucky dude. And I always stopped them like, yo, I'm not lucky whatsoever. Let me tell you that luck has nothing to do with this. Like, legit, since I've been busting my ass, and that is all. Like, just straight grind all day, hard work, you know, shut the hell up, eyes straight forward, and just do what you got to do. And, you know, so many people are so worried about like the social media image as opposed to like your real image, like who you are, right? Because like it's easy to post a picture like on social media of like you doing something cool, right? And then have that be like, yeah, that's what that dude did today. Damn, that dude's super awesome, right? But what about the other 23 hours of the day when what you really were doing? You know, like I talked to Turtle about 10 months ago. He texted me about he wanted to have his own show. He wanted to have his own podcast. Super intelligent with sports, super diligent in knowledge and like who should go where, who should do this, what pickups. Like he always talks about it. It's always been this way. Right now, he talked about it. He even put a message out, I think, on Facebook a while back, and people were laughing. People didn't, you know, whatever, didn't take it serious. And then here you go now. You fast forward, you know, 10 months later, my man has Turtles Take. So again, man, like there's not anything that you can't do. It's just a matter of how much are you willing to sacrifice? Like, what are you willing to give up, right? So I tell this to him all the time. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die, right? Like, it's just that similarity thing. It's like, how much are you willing to give up? How bad do you want it? Because the one thing in life that we're constantly reminded of is it ain't never gonna be easy. Never. Yeah, I definitely would love to all day. You know, but you know, that's like the key thing. Like, you know, a lot of the young guys just getting into the sport or just getting into anything, football, whatever. Don't worry so much about what everyone sees. Just when you get in the mirror at night or in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, like that's what you got to focus on. If I could go back and tell myself in 2015 and 2016, back when I was like, I think I was ranked like number 15th in the world and top prospect around the world. And I would go back and I would tell myself, reevaluate yourself. Be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself, and have that constructive mindset that says like, I'm not good at this. I'm not great at that. I can be better at this, right? Because we feed into our own bullshit a lot of the times, man, and we don't understand, how great. Listen, I go into the training room every single day. My coaches, my teammates, everybody's like, "Man, dude, this outstanding," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Yo, that sucked." I watch the videos. I record the videos. I'm my worst critic. My last fight. The fight was a minute and something long, and I dissected it. I was vomiting it. I was like, what did I do? My coach was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no. That wasn't there. My hand should have been there. I should have threw this punch. I should have threw that. But when you get to that point, that's a good feeling because that means you're on the right track. I mean, you can feel that change in the universe. You kind of start to see where things line up. You kind of see where people start to now kind of gravitate to you, and you kind of but that's where you got to be careful too at the same time. I've always kept my circle extremely small, extremely close. My private life, my personal life, no one knows about, right? Like some people fucking probably think I live like in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory because like somebody decided to go out on social media and say that, or like Lorenzo was like, I've heard so many crazy stories about what like people think I do or what I was doing about, and I just laugh. I don't go out. I don't address it. I don't say anything because I'm like, I don't care what you think. I don't care if you hear something about me and it stops you from wanting to get to know me or it stops you from talking to me, then thank God you saved me that stupid ass interaction that we were gonna have or that fake friendship that we were gonna have. It saved me from that. So I always appreciate that, And again, like I tell Turtle, to him, he's a super nice guy. I always say like, not everybody deserves the same version of you. You can't give everyone the same version of yourself because not everyone's deserving of that same version of yourself, and you got to learn when to do that, when not to do that. And it's all the growing up process, you grow up together with your friends, with your homies, and you embrace in a journey together, and you always have each other's back. You may not talk every single day, man. You find those close people around you, but you always know that at a drop of a dime, if they needed a shirt or if you needed a shirt, you can hit them up. And like that in my journey now is what I have with my coaches, my close circle of people. And that has helped me step my game to the next level. So again, man, that is a huge difference in my game this time, is trusting the small group of people around me and everything in life. I just kind of like, all right, I'm here for a reason. Like, go out and shine, young bro. Like, go do what you got to do.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate all the time you gave us. Can't wait. We'll have you on again soon. Definitely get them fight details out to us as soon as they come out, and just keep going, man. That arrow's pointing straight up.
Man, man. Hey, listen, for those of you, go on Instagram, follow me at The Real Dream Killer. Facebook, obviously, if you don't know my name, then you don't need to know it. Don't worry about it. But honestly, man, I appreciate it, guys. Like Turtle, I'm super proud of you, man. Tarbill, man, it's awesome. Thank you guys for having me on. My fight details, man. Listen, don't miss it. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm knocking this fool out with either a flying knee or it's going to be a crazy style kick. I don't want to give it away too much.
That spinning kick you posted that one day.
Yeah, man. That tornado kick.
The tornado kick, yeah.
This dude's a little tall, man. I don't know if I can throw a tornado kick.
6'9" might be tough to get up there, but
if I can do that, man, I should be in the NBA right now. If I can get him, you know me. One thing I'm never going to give you guys is a boring fight. I'm going to go out there and do what I got to do and put it all on the line. And UFC, man, I'm telling y'all right now, man.
Don't miss out.
Get with it, man. Get with it. I'm gonna keep starching fools, NyQuil hands, baby. You guys know what's up.
NyQuil hands.
Well, thanks again, man. Thank you for sure.
I'll see you guys soon, man.
All right, man. Take care.
What a great interview. What a great show. This has been a lot of fun. We've been watching Fat Mike and Angela do it. They get all the fun. This is fun.
Oh, absolutely. What a guest, man. I mean, very insightful. Really good to hear some of the ins and outs of the training process from him.
Yeah, you know, he's a really good follow. His Facebook, he does a lot of Facebook lives, just a lot of talking, just like he did. You know, he kind of just will randomly just pick a topic and go on about it. And, you know, it's a great listen. His fights are, like he said, his fights are never boring. You know, he was a great guest. Derrick was a great guest. I can't wait to have them both on again. Get a little more from Derrick before he got cut off. And, you know, we'll have Lorenzo tell his story of growing up on the streets of New York and growing up in Hawaii, and just a great story. But man, this has been a hell of a time. We covered a lot of cool sports. You know, we didn't get a chance to get to the Bears stuff, but we'll save that for next week.
We'll definitely bring some Bears topics up next week. You got it.
Definitely. And all you guys watching, thank you. We appreciate you guys watching. And make sure you guys go to the Turtles Take Facebook and leave them topics you guys want us to cover next week. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.